Hey everyone, we're gonna get started here in a couple minutes, and I'm gonna go back on mute, but I'll see you in a couple minutes. A very happy good morning to everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Today is the new ACA documentation requirements, and this is all about obtaining consumer consent and review for accuracy. This was recently announced as a requirement starting June 18th. But I'll get into that in a little bit. I'm going to toss things to Eric Pouncey, and he's going to go through our intro slides and talk about Cornerstone. Take it away, Eric.
All right, thank you, Jeff. First, we're going to go over some housekeeping. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, just please be sure you put them in the question box, and we'll address them at the end of the presentation during our Q&A. Here's the team for the individual side of things. Be sure to follow us on social media, and be sure to subscribe to our weekly Monday Minute to get the latest Cornerstone carrier and industry updates. And then now we have our ASP broker. You are the pilot of your business, and we are your flight crew. With Cornerstone's agency services program, you are the pilot of your business, and we are the flight crew, like I said. As a Cornerstone broker, you have access to expert services from our agency services program that can help you with business outside of your scope and planning for the future. We will create a customized plan for you based on your specific needs to ensure that you, your business, and your family are covered. Contact your Cornerstone representative for more information. Now we have our Health Sherpa ACA enrollment platform. This is a new and innovative tool that's been around for probably the last 3 or 4 years. It's the country's largest ACA agent enrollment platform. Health Sherpa is faster and easier than the alternative of using healthcare.gov. And it's all leading edge technology, and they have updates pretty much every week, trying to make their platform the best it can be. Now we'll switch it back over to Jeff and go through the ACA documentation.
Thank you so much, Eric, and thank you everyone for joining us this morning. This will be a very short webinar, maybe 15 minutes total. I really encourage your engagement. I encourage your questions. I encourage your input. Any thoughts, beefs, any kind of concerns you have, any kind of observations, and we're going to get through this together. This thing dropped from CMS just maybe a couple weeks ago. Starting June 18th, we're required to provide documentation and about the consent and the scope of the conversation we have with our clients. So a lot of guys are saying, well, damn it, I already have to do the scope of appointment for Medicare. Are you meaning that we have to do one for the ACA? Yes, but it's not maybe as involved or restrictive, I guess is the term I'm trying to think of, as the Medicare scope. It's more of a tool. Okay, let me get to that. So the main reason that they're doing this now is because they're trying to rein in the bad actors. This gives the feds a tool to go after the bad actors, the unscrupulous and nefarious types of agents that are just going out on the web, maybe getting client information, and then going into an application and clicking that box that says, I got consent to work on this client's behalf, and then going through an application and, bada bing, bada boom, before you know it, this client, unbeknownst to them, is now linked to a different agent. And now they have coverage maybe they didn't ask for. And that's turning into a problem. And it's a problem more so in some areas than others, but the feds that control 35 states, they're trying to get a handle on this, get their arms around this problem, give themselves a paper trail. I mean, paper, in air quotes, paper trail, so they can determine whether a client provided their consent for the application. So it's all about creating a paper trail so they can enforce this. Does this mean you have to do this requirement, this consent document in order to run a quote? No. Does this mean you have to fill this out just to talk to someone, go over plans? No. It just needs to be baked into the whole process of your application. And we'll get to this. This isn't going to be as hard as maybe we envisioned and we feared. It's going to be pretty easy. So that's the background behind this. And like I mentioned, and this is straight from the guidance from the feds, you need a description of the scope, the purpose, the duration of the consent provided by the consumer or their rep, their maybe be a parental guardian or someone, their rep. And not only that, you need an attestation. This is an attestation by the consumer that the app was reviewed for accuracy. So the client is signing off on the accuracy on the information that's provided on the app. This is a good thing. It's a good thing. Okay. So, and let's dive into the weeds a little bit more. Okay. So these are the requirements, the documentation requirements. The consumer or their rep, first of all, needs to take action to produce the documentation. In order, what we're meaning here is they need to provide, the form. Certainly you're going to help them with the form. You're going to create a form. You're going to give them some guidance on what it is. You're going to maybe create your own personalized form to do this. You're going to create other ways they can do this. Recorded calls. So you can do this definitely on a recorded call, not unlike Medicare. So, but the client needs to be involved here. Okay, they need to produce this consent. And in addition to that, they need to provide documentation that the consumer or the rep has reviewed and confirmed that the application information is accurate, like I said before. And then, very important, this is new, you need to offer the consumers an opportunity to rescind or revoke, they're kind of synonyms, that consent, okay? And there needs to be an expiration date on this. It's open-ended. I talked to someone at CMS last week and asked them, what's the limit on this? Is it 6 months, a year? And he said, it's open to your discretion, but remember, this is the client driving this. This is consumer driven, and provide a recommendation that makes sense for them. So clearly a year would be a prudent thing to put down so you can work with that client throughout the ACA year. I think it might not be a bad idea to make it 5 years because, as we know, the client's income information is on file for 5 years. So, there's some wiggle room there as far as the expiration date goes on this form. And the most important thing is the documentation must contain a minimum of the following information: the date the information was reviewed, the name of the consumer or the rep, okay, or their guardian, okay, an explanation of the attestations at the end of the application. So that's like the PII stuff, and I'll get into that. And the name of the assisting agent, broker, or web broker, that's you. And guys, we have to keep this on file for 10 years. So, and by all means, you got any questions right now, you're befuddled, you're betwixt, you're thinking of things. Are you really serious about this, Jeff? You know, put them in the question box. And already we've got a few comments already. So I am thrilled to hear that. This is going to help all of us out. I want your input and we can get through this together. So 10 years. And let me just dive into some of the questions right now. I'm going to fire through about, okay. So can everybody see us pretty well? I've got an issue with if you're not seeing the fonts correctly. Okay. We'll straighten it out. I think everybody can see. So Eric, can you see everything properly on your end? Is the presentation
Yes.
coming through clearly? Okay, Brad, can you see it? Okay. All right. So hopefully that technology issue isn't so big of a deal. And howdy to you, Gary. Thank you so much. Great question. Gary had a great question. Does Health Sherpa work in Kentucky only for quoting? And also bringing this up about this topic, this only has to do with the 35 FFM states. This does not involve Kentucky. I talked to Kentucky about it yesterday. They are not requiring this documentation. It turns out that the bad actors aren't really acting in Kentucky. They've only had 2 cases in Kentucky, only 2 cases of bad actors stealing stuff. That's not the case in Florida. I mean, there's I can't imagine. Florida, Texas, Ohio, you know, the FFM states, this has been more of a problem. So not in Kentucky. Okay, this is being recorded, Barbara, absolutely. Everybody will get a copy of the recording. The audio is coming through very choppy. You know what I'll do, and I thank you for that, Chuck. This might help, and Chuck, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to turn off my webcam, and maybe that will help. Chuck, did that help? Please respond if you think it's better now. And then Jess had a great question about the expiration date. Does that mean you'll have to get consent again after the expiration date? Yeah. So again, the expiration date, and we'll get to this in a little bit. The expiration date is, again, this is a consumer-driven document. So this is them, you know, this is their expiration date. Your recommendation, you can leave it blank. You know, that's what the feds do. They leave it blank. But the client, you'll need to get the client's consent later, but you might have a general recommendation. Let's give me a couple of years, you know, because I'm going to be your agent for a couple of years and I need this more than 12 months. There's no ironclad rule as far as the expiration date. And okay, keep the questions coming. Okay, we got a full half hour to cover this, and I want to go over everything you need. And Jen, you had a question. Do we have to do this annually at renewal if it is set for 12 months? If it is set for 5 years, do we still need to do a new one if stopping at renewal? I think it'd be a prudent thing to do this every year, just to remind them that this is there. And remember, clients may or may not respond to us, but we're still working on their behalf. So devil's advocate, you do it the first year, you have it for 2 years. You might not hear from that client for 2 years, but at least you've got their ability to work. You know, the renewal and correspond with them, you know, via email and that sort of thing. So I think it's a prudent thing to include the consent expiration date, include the consent every year. You need to bake it into the application and keep it on file. But and then the next question is, what is the best practice to get this to clients that are sent over to us on Help on Demand? Should we make it a PDF fillable or email it to them? I'll get to that in a minute, Val. And then the next question, so is this done at the end of the app? This is done in the beginning. Okay, I'll get to it in a second. We've got an easy button for all this, guys. This is not as bad as it thinks, as you might think. I wrote someone 5 days ago. What do? You relax. This is not the end of the world. Believe me, there were hundreds of apps that didn't get caught here. You are all, you know, prudent, conscientious agents. Again, this is to weed out the bad actors. And they made it clear if, you know, you didn't get it initially, they're not coming after you. They're not going to flag an app. You know, you will have concern, you know, if, you know, there's, you know, nefarious things going on, but none of you are in that category. None of you are in that category. The people that are stealing clients, the people are going on the dark web, getting social security numbers or whatever, and uploading apps. Hell yeah, they have to be something to be concerned about. Okay, but just keep in mind that going forward, this is going to be a part of the process, and we'll get to it in a second. This is going to be automated, pretty easy for you to do. Okay, great to hear that the fonts are better. I got more questions. Thank you for the questions. I can do questions all day if we want. Rather than doing an online enrollment, if we do a conference call with the client in healthcare.gov, will we still need to have some form of the scope of appointment? That's a great question. I'm going to find out for you, but the safe answer is yes. That's a question I did not even think of. And that's a great question. And we already have to get the privacy notice signed so we can bind these, or do we need to be separate? You can bake them in together. You can do even more than just do the privacy notice and the consent together. You can maybe create an attestation of income, because that's another thing that you know, the feds are after, is documentation of income, and in some cases a letter is all that you're looking for. Okay, that's all they're looking for. Can the consent be electronically signed? Absolutely. I'll get to that in a second. Great questions. Got a lot of folks on the call. Okay, so let me just dive into some more stuff. Keep them coming. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get to all the questions. You know, as we were talking about earlier, this is the privacy and that's already in some of the detail. Unless the consumer or their authorized rep has provided consent, you'll need them to have permission to use it. You do this already. Talking about the eligibility for QHP, APTC, and USR. Yeah.
Will you go over that again?
Here.
It like bugged out there again.
Oh, this bugged out? Okay.
Yeah, just like the audio of it, not the presentation.
So the audio bugged out. Okay, because we have a multitude of agents on here. I think we're breaking the internet. That's probably what's going on. I mean, this is crazy. I think that just belongs. So you want to safeguard consumer PII, and this will be baked into this, okay? But you do this already, but this is going to be baked into the template I'm going to show you in a second, okay? And I'll talk slower so the computer can pick up on it. And please bring your questions. Okay, so this is your easy button. This is your easy button. I'm going to go. Can you guys see me? Eric, can you see me? Eric,
Yes.
can you see me? Okay,
Yes.
great. So I threw a lot at you. The emails, we threw a lot at you. But in reality, the feds have already provided us a good model for this. This is their idea of a consent form. Okay, and I'm going to try to share my screen. Eric, tell me if you can see this. Can you guys see this screen, this new screen, Eric?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Okay, so this is something that the feds have sent over. Everybody should have received this already. It's on our resource page. It's on our resource page. And this is, I consider, the easy button to all this. So this cover page gives the purpose statement, why are they doing this, and exactly what they're looking for, what they're not, just what it is, okay? And then this is the sample document that they created. This is not for you to use, it's for you to use as a sample. That's why it's called the model consent form. It's for you to use as a sample. It hits the high notes. It hits the high notes of what the consent is all about. So read this, digest this, reword this, and make your own form. You can just lightly reword it. Just don't use this exact form. This is a government doc. Okay, this is not a legal doc. Okay, this is a government doc. So just recraft this. Again, it leaves the expiration date up here on, it leaves it wide open. Again, this is a consumer-driven doc. Now you want to choose something that's applicable to them. You can leave this blank and let the consumer choose their own date. Okay. And then, like I said, in the bullet points, it goes over the scope of the agreement. It goes into the attestation of the accuracy. Okay, the client's attesting to the accuracy, and they are also incorporating the privacy that's already in the app. They're incorporating this. You should do the same. And in addition to that, they are including all the names and the agency. That's critical because this is how they're going to nail somebody, that they didn't provide this information. This is how they're going to nail some of the bad actors. Guys, there are call centers like overseas, okay, doing this stuff. So we can all, the whole Joe Namath syndrome is sort of filtering in. And I think it's sad, but this is going to help them weed this out, and it's probably going to make a big dent into the problem. So I digress. But that's, in an essence, all you need to do. That's all you need to do. So let's go back to the presentation and keep the questions flowing. And if I'm going too fast, let me know. You'll get this presentation. This sample document's in here. It's on a link that we put here. Okay. And then let's talk about how you can document it. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, recorded call, it's a great idea. So if you've got a program that does the recorded call, I'm sure it can be modified, to not only handle Medicare, but to handle ACA. So most of you are already using recorded calls. I think it's a requirement, isn't it? It's a requirement, Brad, isn't it, to do recorded calls for Medicare? You're the Medicare expert, right?
Right.
Brad?
What's the question? Sorry. Say again the
No, is it
question, Jeff. I'm
choppy?
sorry.
Yeah, aren't recorded calls mandatory for Medicare nowadays?
Recorded calls?
Yeah, don't they have to record their
If
calls, Medicare applications?
yeah,
I think that's the case.
it's prudent to do it if you're doing an online application, recording it. Storage is the issue, and that's always been the issue. That was one of the first things identified
I see.
for
Okay.
individual agents, right? Not
Yeah.
all of the bad actors, as you say. They already
Yeah.
have those in force. So yes.
Okay. So you can certainly think about using a recorded call. If I'm going too fast, let me know, or Brad, jump in or whatever. But some of the other examples, these are the feds who provided these examples. You can use a text. So carefully craft a text, and then there should be an ability for somebody to opt in or opt out of that language. So a text would be sufficient, and you would simply make a screenshot of that text when you get it back, put it in your CRM, keep it for 10 years, you're compliant. Obviously an email, that's another great way to do that. You can do this via email. What I like are, what I call them electronic fillable forms, fillable docs. Well, there's something called an electronic PDF, electronic fillable PDF. I believe Microsoft Word allows for that. There's also something called buildable forms, online forms. A couple of examples are 123formbuilder.com. Okay, and these are really cool little forms. If you use Amazon, you are very familiar with these forms. If you use, you fill out a, Travelocity airline app or something like that, you're going on booking a trip, they're using these forms. These are the same things, okay? So you can customize these for your needs and wing through this. And so it's just click, 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 you're done with this at the beginning of the enrollment process. So, and this could all be boiled down into like literally 30 seconds in your workflow. So I don't envision this being a real problem. We'll have more of these examples out on the email that you get later on this documentation. You can also do a wet signature. That's old school, okay? Snail mail, I'm gonna avoid that option, but certainly you can get a wet signature. Again, use this form here as a guide, create something similar to that, get a wet signature on the bottom, you're compliant, okay? And let's get to some of these questions now. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get to all of them, but I'm gonna try my darndest in the next 5 minutes, okay? And we can go over a little bit if you want. Yeah, I'll get back to you on that three-way call. We're talking about something, Brad. Brad, didn't something come up with Health Sherpa? You were going to ask a question about Health Sherpa. You saw something come over on Health
Well,
Sherpa?
yeah, definitely. I actually messaged that in.
Yeah,
If anybody didn't see, I believe it was on Monday. Brad just got back from vacation. So
yeah,
Monday, I had an unscheduled trip. And then so I got most emails on Tuesday, and I did see that Health Sherpa has a solution on their platform straight out of the gate at the application to complete help the client complete the consent form. Is that how you read it too, Jeff?
well, I need to clarify that. So I looked at that myself, Brad, and I had a call with Health Sherpa yesterday, and I want to, curb everybody's enthusiasm over that. Health Sherpa did not bake that solution into their enrollment process for brokers. That consent that Health Sherpa built out is for the direct to consumer channel. So if a consumer goes out to your website, clicks on your Health Sherpa URL, okay, your agent URL, your Gary Albert URL, clicks on that, and then does the app, okay, themselves without any involvement of the agent, this language will appear, okay? this language will appear. This is to cover health Sherpas, and then this is really to make everything compliant on a non-broker involved but broker linked application. I hope that makes sense. If it's broker driven, broker data driven, which is the case for most of the applications and the preferred way of doing an application, you need to provide this documentation. Okay. Absolutely, consent form can be electronically signed. And then Jeff, the disclosure form, here's the sample doc, have fun with it and, go to town. And again, you can personalize this. I think you could probably add more to it and make it, more convenient for your workflow. You can condense some of the language, just hit all the high points. Just wordsmith it. You don't have to spend a lot of time on this. Okay, so will Cornerstone offer an electronic consent such as Medicare SOA on Medicare Center? Again, we're not providing the all we're doing is providing this sample and run with it. So I don't have, because we can't provide a legal document that will serve the needs here. So it has to be generated by you, and that's all you need. So use the form. Again, use that form, just lightly reword it, and you're good. Sherpa says they will include the consent statements in applications emailed for completion by the client. Will they maintain documentation for 10 years? Yeah, I mean, that's a 10-year requirement. So they are complying with this whole new regulation, and it's a 10-year requirement. So I hope that answers your question, Rod. And okay, and just getting to some more questions, more and more questions. I'm going to hang out for a little bit after 10 here. I'll give it another 10 minutes or so. If you need to jump off, please do. I really appreciate you all joining me today, and we'll have more of this in the future. So more to come. And do you have a generic form that we can read to the consumer and then record it? Right, so again, that template that we showed would be a good resource for that. Create your own script from that, okay? And okay, and then a question about Health Sherpa in Kentucky. No, you cannot enroll Kentucky people on Health Sherpa. You can only use them for quoting. Okay, so I'm here to answer all your questions, okay, and all your comments. Okay, audio sounds good. Will Cornerstone, okay. You mentioned having an end date. Can we just have a statement that says, unless rescinded? No, it needs to have an end date. You need to put a expiration date on it. Again, a year is a safe bet. A year is fine. 2 years, fine. It needs to be, good by the client. So something the client can agree with. I received an email from Health Sherpa that they'll have the consent form included in the application. Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. Brad mentioned that, but that's strictly the direct to consumer channel, or the electronic link, the agent link. Okay. So will CMS or will insurance carriers provide the scope form? CMS has done so, and some of the same questions. How do clients rescind the consent? Written authorization, some kind of written statement, and that needs to be included in the records as well. And you can create a fillable PDF in this form because it's in a PDF format. that we're sending to all of you, so you can convert that into a PDF. Okay, next question. I'm sticking around for a little while. We have to get consent after the application is processed. What if we get consent when we obtain the quoting information? That's prudent. You can do that. I think that makes sense because you're diving into some of the income information, the protected information, privacy information. So absolutely, you can get it even before you do the application. If I recall correctly, the CMS model form does not recommend a stated expiration. Can we just say valid until rescinded? They actually want you to include a date. Okay, that's why there's
maybe a suggestion on the date, right? Maybe base it on their age. And I know many of you write Medicare. So if they're 62, make the date 3 years out. So give their age some basis on that. And on the year thing, maybe make it 18 months. If they just say, because that gets them into the extended open enrollment period. So give it to that end date of the next year's period. So you're giving yourself some latitude.
Great idea. Yeah. And I saw that date thing and I kind of flipped out too. And I called, I have a contact, at CMS, and I said, give me a break here, give me a date, give me something to go by. I mean, guys are going to be asking, is it a year, 5 years? I mean, what's going to be compliant? What's going to be out of the realm? What's going to be completely off guard? And he said, this is open-ended. A prudent thing would be 1 year, but it's really a date that you want. Sorry about this. This is a date that needs to be agreeable by the client. And can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I just hit a button. This thing always hits the button. Will HealthSure provide this form during the enrollment process? Unfortunately not. Not if you're doing a broker-driven, data entered application like you most do, okay? I pleaded with them. I said, please just do this, make life easy. And they said, no. HealthSherpa said, no, you guys have to provide it. Okay, more questions. I'm gonna hang out for a little bit. Will there be a generic form? Okay, answered that already. Can you please elaborate on point 3 and attestation? Maybe going back to the screen. I think you're talking about an explanation of attestations at the end of the eligibility application. That's basically the privacy stuff. And hello, let me read this again. How do they attest that they received the app, that they reviewed the app for accuracy? Okay. Well, that's a great question. It's a little bit cart before the horse. You're doing it at time of application. So basically you've got this information already, okay? And they've given you this information. You need to have the client information before you do the app. Remember, the client should be on the phone with you, but in many cases, they've given us the information, okay? So that information is just done already. That all takes place at the beginning. If anything has changed dramatically, they need to do a new consent, recorded consent, or new document. So you're going to use the information they provided already, and maybe do this at the end of the application. Okay, so it's either or. I think it might be probably easier to do it at the beginning, just so they understand completely, you know, the expectation and for the workflow, but by and large, you're going to enter information they've already provided you. Okay, so that's a very good question. So just make sure everything matches up from the information at the beginning and at the end. Okay, and this is now. This requirement takes place immediately. It takes place on any application you do now. I think the timing is terrible. I wish they had waited till the end of the year, but it's in effect now. I think it's just the way they're trying to address, again, the bad actors. Please elaborate on the new eligibility application confirmation requirement. That's essentially, you know, kind of what I've gone over here. This is maybe if you want to elaborate on that in a subsequent text, because I'm maybe not grasping what you mean by that. Is DocuSign acceptable? Yeah, DocuSign is a great tool you can use on one of those form builder apps. And are both pages required? No, just that one pager. And again, you don't want to use that page specifically that we have there. You want to reword it. You want to doctor it a little bit. Hit those high points. Hit the intent of the document. Okay, use that as your guide. Can we use a phrase like, this agreement will expire 5 years from today? Yeah, that's and give today's date. You know, and if they're, you know, not acceptable to that, amend that. Okay. Where in the Resource Center will we find the model forms? That's a great question. And crnstone.com is our website. And then there's a tab for resources. And not only will you find this form there, you'll find all these webinars and more great stuff. Okay, so it's a repository of infinite information. Jess has been the quarterback for that great resource, and Jess Larkin, that is, and she does a fantastic job. It is sort of like an insurance agent's Google and Facebook all built into one, I think. So can we just include a checkbox at the end of the form that says something along the lines, I give consent to be contacted and have that count? No, unfortunately. That's a great question. Can we just check a box? No. That's checking a box is what led to this problem, because, you know, on so many apps there was a box that was checked, you know, like, you know, liar, liar, pants on fire. You know, this guy checked the box, this nefarious agent, and you know, 1,000 apps later, and, you know, out of compliance, and all these problems happen. And now we're here. Okay, sorry. Yeah, and then to piggyback on Brad's comment, yes, Medicare requires a recording for everything related to enrollment. So they're more stringent, I think, Medicare is. And so that includes not only MAPD, but PDP too. I didn't know that. And
well, so just really quick, Jeff, on the recording, it's only if you're doing an online application. You're not recording an in-person meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's only if you're doing an online presentation.
Oh, for Medicare, you mean?
Yeah. Could you imagine bringing a tape recorder on every in-person appointment?
Okay, I'm learning about Medicare too. I'm trying to work both sides of the street, but I'm strictly.
We just dated ourselves when we said the word tape recorder.
Yeah. I'm going to get through these questions, and just so we get through these for the recording. Most people have jumped off by now. I really appreciate those people that have hung on. Okay, I really appreciate that. And so can you email CMS sample to us with a recorded webinar? Absolutely, it'll be going out, and it's baked into the webinar. Actually, you just click on that button, and it's baked into the webinar. Click here for access. Okay. So more questions. Can Cornerstone ask Sherpa to make this form a requirement when we are submitting an app? I tried. I begged. I pleaded. Yes, I wish Sherpa would bake this in to make life easy. Wouldn't that be easy? I mean, my gosh, they'd be a hero. But again, their legal team said, no, baby, no, can't do that. It has to be client generated. So, a couple more questions and then we'll wrap up. Just to confirm, it only applies to clients moving forward, correct? Right. No need to go through and collect consent from all current clients. That's correct. Thanks, Jess. Okay, so when the second consent is taken before submitting an application or getting eligibility results, okay, when the second consent is taken, I think she's clarifying something that she said earlier. This is having to do with when the second consent is taken before submitting an application or getting eligibility results. Okay, I think to clarify that, I think it's the prudent thing to do this, before you get into the app, because the app, okay, the app is where you get all of this information. This is putting before the process starts. This is the legal prudent thing to do, is do it before the application. Okay, do it before the application, because this is also accessing their PII and getting their consent before you get into the application. Okay, so okay, where on the website is the form? Okay, it's on the Resource Center. Okay, back at you, Jess Larkin. Take a bow, Jess Larkin. And how do we get this form to clients? As I alluded to earlier, several different ways. You can do it in a recording. You can send them an email with a electronic, fillable form. Super easy. Call me if you need help with that. And I like these forms. These forms Jess talks about, these fillable forms. There's something called a WooFoo form, but I can't use that form because it's not, PII compliant. But there's other forms out there like this JOT 123 form, and this is all included in the presentation. So you'll have these resources out there. These are really cool tools. Again, this is making it like shopping on Amazon. Okay, you'll wing through this stuff. This stuff will be a part of your workflow. It won't be that hard. Okay. We're not going to let Joe Namath win this. Okay. All right. Just saying that. Okay. I'm joking. Joe Namath's a good guy, but great. We're done. Okay. 45 minutes. I went 15 minutes over. I want to thank everybody for being on the presentation. I want to thank the 34 people who are still on the call. Okay. And we're going to wrap things up. My team out there, Eric and Brad, any final comments?
No.
Nope. Great job.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Take care.